Greetings, sunshines and sunnies. It is I, Queen J Lotus King Sunkiss, coming at y'all right quick, right fast, certainly, for just some quick commentary on something I want to point out and kind of unpack as it concerns one particular thing that stood out to me as it concerns the America's Next Top Model documentary that Tyra and him put out. I do plan on doing more organized reactions, reviews, commentary on it, but it's something I want to spit real quick because it has some, spiritual and astrological shit to it. So, I always felt like Danielle was being, let me put it like this. I always noticed that the dark-skinned girls in particular were being targeted in different ways. But back then, I didn't really know what to call it, how to clock it, or, shit like that. Also, in my rewatch recently, I was popcorning and I didn't get to Danielle's scene. I didn't get to Danielle's season, cycle, yet. So, and watching the documentary, and when it gets to Danielle's part, goodness gracious, when it gets to Danielle's part, and with the whole Gap thing, amongst other things that was going on, amongst the stuff that happened with Shandy that I really feel like was a setup. I really feel like Tyra would be lying and telling the truth at the same time, like speaking with a forked tongue, right? So I do believe that there were elites, executive designers, and shit like that that would put input in and play large roles in certain girls being targeted if they're doing too good and that's not who they want to win. Because I also remember the alleged, quote unquote, colorism controversy when it came down to Eva and Yaya, and you can say, quote unquote, why Eva won. Eva won because she was talented, but at the same time, there was some colorism shit going on, and allegedly they did not want Yaya to win. Like, both of the girls could have won, basically, is what I'm saying. Both of them, like, the same way Tyra pulled out a card with nothing on it and sent two girls home, she could have made a move that put both of them girls' pictures up on that screen and allowed both of them to win fair and square. Okay? But with colorism being a thing, of course, that's not what happened. Amongst, I haven't watched that season back yet either, but I do remember that both of them very much so could have won that season. So, and it was certain things that made it also ridiculous that Yaya didn't just win fair and square. But all that to say, I do believe that production and certain judges, what have you, other different people are part of the team, and even Tyra at this point. Because I'm remembering certain shit that's been said about Tyra from like Naomi Campbell and like certain other people, particularly other dark-skinned actresses and models that have talked about getting weird treatment from her one way or another, a weird energy from her one way or another. And it's giving, I'm not going to try to like unpack her whole mentality surrounding it right now, but what I am going to get to the point of saying, Danielle saying that Tyra expressed to her that she knew it would be a lot of doors that she wouldn't ever be able to walk in, Gap or not, and she never said anything and she never did anything about it. It makes me feel like Tyra started the show with a forked tongue, right? With a forked sense of values. Meaning, she started the show wanting to do exactly what she said the truth was that she wanted to do. Show the behind the scenes of models, give girls opportunity and this and that. But then I think that at a certain point, it got like how a lot of teachers and or coaches tend to get, and even parents tend to get, where you build up something to make it easier and or better for the people that's coming behind you, and then you get jealous for them having it. You get envious of them for having these new things that you also fought and worked so hard for them to have. And I believe when it came to Danielle specifically, amongst other girls, but Danielle is just a prominent one for me. I feel like at a certain point, those girls became competition to Tyra. And much like Nicki Minaj, who is also a Sagittarius, both of them are Sagittarius, and unevolved Sagittarius are very possessive, and they find it impossible to let shit go. They find it very, very impossible to let shit go, and they also like to possess the people around them like ghosts, like demons. And I feel like Tyra was getting lost in the sauce of the power of it all, amongst having moments of jealousy that turned into envy throughout being on the show. The more these girls are getting attention, particularly the dark-skinned girls, especially, because a lot of dark-skinned girls that went on there, and of course, at a certain point, they were a rarity also. So a lot of people, black people in particular, and or, certain people of color, took to them very well because they saw them as not only beautiful, strikingly beautiful, and finally this beauty is being showcased on national television on this huge platform, but also relatable. The stories that they come from, amongst a lot of the times, the darker skinned girls would have a confidence or even a softness about themselves that a lot of the other people didn't expect because they're looking at them through this lens of stigma surrounding dark skin. And much like Nicki Minaj, I feel like Tyra also had this thing of being possessive over the preference role, being the preference, being preferred, being the quote unquote special one. Mind you, think about, and if you don't know, go fishing, baby, but think about what Tyra represents to the era which she popped out at. They even described that in the documentary. So I think, again, that unevolved Sagittarius shit, being possessive as fuck, and it's interesting the parallels like with Nicki Minaj. You do all of these things to break barriers down and trailblaze, and then you make enemies out of the people that follow your trends, that follow your trail. Just like I remember there was one season where one of the girls, there was a girl that looked a lot like her, and it's coming back to me now. I'm remembering her being weird with her, being very, very weird with her about how she looked and how she would look in film. I also remember when girls would, you could say, emulate her, she would criticize them unnecessarily harsh. Like I feel like she would choose to be offended by the fact that they were emulating her. But she also described emulating Miss J in her pitch, her final pitch for the show, which got the show finally picked up. She talked about she emulated Miss J, just totally went in cosplaying Miss J on some shit. Which, think about how Nicki Minaj, quote unquote, cosplays a lot. She's emulated Lil' Kim. She's emulated, really similar to Diddy, how, and this is not to take away from Nicki Minaj's rap skills at all, because Nicki can actually rap. However, what I notice is whenever she's on a song with someone, or she has someone on a song with her, she starts to emulate their energy. She starts to emulate their flow. She starts to emulate, characteristics about them. Especially if her verse is after theirs, she will mimic her verse in the same like skeleton way and energy as theirs. If you want to know what I'm talking about, listen to the Plain Jane remix, for instance. Listen to the Plain Jane remix with her and, is that A$AP Ferg? I think that's A$AP Ferg. And listen to Princess Diana remix with Ice Spice. And listen to the originals of those songs also. And then also listen to the remixes that she's featured on. And her verses are also after their first verses. You can even, and it's no tea, no shade to Ramen's Revenge, because that's my shit. But you can even listen to Ramen's Revenge, even though her verse is first, because of course that's her song. But even listen to Ramen's Revenge and you will see like some of what I'm talking about. You can even say the Monster track, her verse on Monster. Pay attention, in correlation to what I'm saying about how unevolved Sagittarius imitate and emulate people to the point of possession. And when you take yourself away from them, or you cut off access for them to be able to possess you the way that they want to, and puppeteer possess you the way that they want to, they will villainize you, they will attack you, they will hunt the fuck out of you in all the different ways that they can to surge terrible energy towards you, have people gang up against you, all types of shit, all types of crazy ass shit. And I find it very interesting having this revelation because in a lot of the readings that I've been doing, particularly with the full moon and Leo readings, there was a lot of demonic Sagittarius energy channeling through. Not necessarily the energy, but messages about, let me rephrase that. There was a lot of messages about a lot of demonic Sagittarius energy and a lot of messages, directing, freeing yourself and navigating it, and also being careful to not become what you despise. Because that's also a thing about unevolved and demonic Sagittarius energy. Unevolved, you can be unevolved to the point of becoming demonic, okay? Unevolved and demonic don't have to mean the same thing, but like I said, you can become unevolved. If you function in something long enough that is low vibrational, it will eventually be consumed by demonic ass energy. Okay, we got that out the way. But yeah, so Sagittarius tends to be the like fake it till you make it sign, and that doesn't have to be bad. But when it's unevolved and it's surrounded by a whole lot of evil shit, Sagittarius end up faking it till they make it in the worst fucking way. And it seems like Tyra and Nicki have had that similar parallel of faking it till they make it and not realizing that the people that they faking is making them into evil motherfuckers. And it's interesting because much like Nicki Minaj as well, it seems like at the beginning Tyra had a stance. You know what I'm saying? She had a stance and she would speak up and she would, fight for things that she believed in. But once people, I feel like it's a lens of glorifying people with power to a fault. Being trained that you have to be a certain way to people who have power. People confusing reverence and respect for fear and toxic, subservient shit. And so I feel like from the time they were able to talk her off of a stance and then there was rewards for being talked off of that stance successfully and going along to get along, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And before you knew it, she was faking it. And this was probably in her mind, like, okay, I'm just gonna do this real quick. I'm just gonna bow down right here, and then I'm not gonna do it no more. In the next stances, I'm gonna hold my stance. If they say something, I'm just gonna walk away, and this show can go to hell. But when that reward came in on the back end, and probably certain other rewards and treats and shit came in the meantime, in between time, it's like, oh, you know, distractions, blinding and shit like that. And definitely not to make any excuses for her, because, you know, your reactions to shit say more about you. You feel me? So it went on to show where her values truly were, which it seems as though she valued being a preference more than she valued actually being a real hero or being a real matriarch or being a real role model and inspiration and someone who truly goes against the grain for what is right. Similar to like Tyra from Love and Hip Hop New York. She was always giving these speeches and these displays and all of this shit like she was such a strong black woman and liberated and ain't going for no shit. She wanted to be seen as brave and like she'll just leave this man that's been dogging her all these years, but in actuality she was still behaving weak as fuck behind the scenes. You know what I'm saying? No tea, no shade, because trauma do a motherfucker to your mind. But also in child, there'll be a commentary on her in itself where we really unpack that shit. But yeah, just an example. But yeah, honey, I said all that to say to bring some quick attention to some parallels between Tyra Banks and Nicki Minaj, and to point out some traits of unevolved to demonic Sagittarius energy that everybody needs to be on the lookout for. Okay, protect yourself at all times. I love us for real. Amongst to point out also how I feel like it's very important for us that when we are trying to be the change that we want to see and put up preventionary parameters for, you know, people that are coming behind us and all of that shit, you know, make life easier and the path easier for people behind us, we have to premeditate that to some degree. You know, to an extent, jealousy in itself is a natural human emotion. The proper way to process jealousy is to honestly transmute it. You have to be honest about what it is that, you know, whatever it is that's making you feel jealous is what you feel like you lack. Okay? You have to be honest about what it is, whatever it is that you're feeling like you lack. And then instead of where your brain is saying, oh, they got it, you don't, you're a loser, you ain't never gonna be shit, you can reroute your brain to saying, wow, they got something that I don't right now, but me recognizing that in them, me seeing them do that, God putting me in this place, or the universe, or whoever, however the happenstance happen, me being here to witness this is something letting me know, even if it's yourself and your own focus, it's something letting you know that you can do that too. And or you already have. And it's something else that you need to tap back into with yourself. You need to remember who you are and what you're capable of. But when you fail to do so, or you have resistance to doing so, or you don't have the tools or whatever, that jealousy turns into envy. And you start doing shit. Even if you give somebody something, you start doing shit to try to take it back. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, a lot of mentors, a lot of teachers, a lot of parents, a lot of coaches, especially when they, so, you know, a model mentoring a model. An athlete mentoring a new up-and-coming athlete. A teacher mentoring a new up-and-coming teacher. A principal mentoring a teacher that has the potential to become a principal or an administrator or a superintendent, something of the sort. Because you can mentor someone to even surpass, you know, some of the accomplishments, if you will, the tiers of accomplishments that you have had. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, teaching somebody how to play a game and now they better at it than you are. You have to then be willing to learn from the people that you taught. And that's included with parenting. Parents have to be willing to learn from the little beings that they're teaching. A huge part of being a leader is being able to be led. A huge part of teaching is being able to be taught. A huge part of communication is listening. Child. And again, like I said all of that to say that it's definitely like that aspect in particular is definitely a huge cautionary tale, a very common cautionary tale, but on a grand scheme of shit, that like, unpack your negative emotions, man. Don't be afraid to unpack your negative emotions. And in order to unpack them, you have to first be real about them. You have to first be able to face them head on. Like, if you look up at somebody, even if it's your friend, and something about, you know, whatever is going on makes you feel jealous for a second, don't just find something to distract yourself from that feeling. Journal about it. Journal about it. Ask ChatGPT. Okay, in moderation, because, you know, the environment. But I'm saying, you know, take the initiative to do what you need to do to be the authentic version of who you want to be. Instead of trying to take something from them, go find it within yourself. And your failure and or resistance to do so says more about you. It says more about your values or lack thereof. It says more about your sense of self or lack thereof. Because sometimes not even the material or whatever, that's really what you lacking is you lacking on yourself. You sleeping on yourself in some type of way. How somebody gonna truly understand and embrace your flaws if you don't even? Okay? So, all that said, I believe it's about that time where I remind y'all, you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. You teach a man a fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. Y'all go fishing, baby!